We're like 6 minutes into it.
Yeah, okay.
There's no turning back.
Hit it, Corey. You got this.
I'm just kidding. Hey, y'all, welcome to True Tall Tales and
What about
Whiskey.
the spike? We got to do the spike. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. All right, man. I'm done. We're
Beautiful.
Did somebody spike his Dr. Pepper?
Hey, y'all, welcome to True Tall Tales and Whiskey. Tonight's episode is sponsored by Integrity Metalworks, so y'all hit up Dylan Crodel for all your welding and fabrication needs. Tonight, we got Mr. Nate Burnham in the house. He's coming fresh off his last single called 1845. He dropped on February 10th on all streaming platforms. So tonight, we're going to ask him some questions, talk about some future things, and see where we go from it. How you doing tonight, Nate?
What's going on, boys? I made it. I'm here.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
And that's a good thing because some behind the scenes before we fumbled the bag and dropped off for a little bit last year, Nate was going to be one of the upcoming guests. So we need to circle back around and get them. So Billy Joe, we'll get you on here soon. But
Oh, I'm before Billy Joe?
Yeah.
Take that, Billy Joe.
Yeah, Billy Joe.
Hey, don't forget
Don't get me in
that
trouble.
we have like a whole episode of Zach that's lost somewhere in Dropbox space.
Listen,
Although, just so you guys know, Billy Joe is
It's not
the
usable.
2022
Trust me.
TCMA Showdown, Stockyard Showdown champion. She beat me.
she did.
Yeah, she beat me. She beat 8 other people, but mostly she beat me. So,
Phenomenal band.
Yeah.
That was cool.
dude, she was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So, speaking on that, we do have Mr. Zach Lindley from the Well Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants podcast.
Yeah, man.
In-house as co-host tonight.
Yeah, thanks for letting me sit in here. I don't know who the hell this guy is. His songs sound pretty good. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I've seen your name on some credits. So.
yeah, Zach has a few things to do with that.
Eh.
All right, Nate, so you grew up here in this area, correct?
I grew up in Houston,
Houston, okay.
Yeah.
So South Texas.
so your whole bio is probably wrong about me right now.
I don't really have a bio.
No, I'm just kidding.
You missed the chance on all the Astros.
But,
jokes.
but so you moved to Idaho, correct? And then you
Right.
came back?
Yeah. I grew up Houston, and then I was in Idaho for 5 years, and I was just running a business and stuff, and decided like money was overrated, and I wanted to be a poor musician, so we moved back to Texas in January of 2021. You remember that snowstorm that
Absolutely.
hit? So we brought that with us from Idaho. I just want to apologize to everybody because
Hey, man, I had a week off
That-
from
we
work,
brought
so
that with
thank
us.
you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So did I.
I was the only one in my neighborhood that had a snow shovel. Our driveway looked great that week, but
Me too. Me too.
But yeah, I moved back like literally the week before that happened, and then after that, just started hitting open mics to play music. So they
So-
just started right there.
So poor financial decisions brought you back to this area?
Yeah, it wasn't, most people would look at the spreadsheets and see that, being a musician's not really profitable for a long time, but or ever for some people. But no, I mean, I just, I dabbled. I'd put out an album in 2012, but I started a pest control company the same year, and I was kind of naive to think I could do both. And the business took over, and it was successful. We were making money. I think, I realized I wasn't as passionate about that as other things, and I had some questions I had to answer for myself about, music and that whole thing. And, as you get older, you realize like, man, there's, you only have so much time on this earth. I can always go start another business down the road if I need to, and I've only got so much time to really go play music. So somehow my wife agreed to it, and so we moved back, and here we are.
You better keep her around, dude.
Oh, I tell her every day not to leave me.
For sure. And I want to give a huge shout out right now because I'm going to steal a little bit of their podcast. But Gotta Love Texas Music. We love y'all. We obviously support y'all to the fullest. I heard a small part of your interview with them at Kearney's where your first show, you didn't even have a PA system or really know what it was.
Right. No, I mean, I'd been married. I got married in 2008, and I was just hitting open mics around Austin. And I went to one in Georgetown. I'd been there like 3 times, and they came up to me one night and were like, "Hey, our Friday night guy can't play, and they won't be here. Would you like to come play?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." They're like, "Do you have a PA?" I had no idea what that was, and I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, I got a PA." And they're like, "Cool, well then we'll see you this time. It's going to be this much, and we'll see you Friday." I'm like, "Sweet." And so I went home, Googled what a PA was, and then the next day went down to Straight Music and dropped $1,000 on all the gear that I needed to play my first gig.
Sounds like you got out cheap, dude.
Well, yeah, I guess it was a different time back then, but yeah, but it's more than paid for itself. So
For sure.
But
obviously, you came a long way since then. So, by the time this came out, the show will obviously have happened. You play this Friday at Sojo, Southern Junction, for those not local.
Right.
That's a big step to go from not even having a PA to playing somewhere as legendary as Southern Junction.
Yeah, man. When we first moved back, I remember I was just driving around, and I'm new to Rockwall, new to this area. The reason why we're here is my wife's sister lives in the Dallas area. She's like, I want to be close to my sister if you're going to be traveling for music. And I said, okay. And I remember I drove past this Southern Junction. Place was packed. Cars, and William Clark Green was playing. And I was like, oh man, like that's the place, I guess, and you start hearing all the other names are showing up there. And then my wife and I, before we got married and after we got married, she's a dance instructor. I grew up two-stepping in Texas, and we love to go to dance halls and go. Our favorite place is Copeland Dance Hall east of Austin. And so we had a chance for a date night. We went to Southern Junction. You walk in, you're like, okay, this is like a proper dance hall. This is a cool place. And we were just stoked that there was a nice dance hall so close to our house. And then immediately it's like, well, I just got to work my way to get here, and so it's kind of been one of those, it's like a litmus test. It's been a dream. I mean, I talked about it the first time I played it in February. It meant a lot. It meant so much to be able to get on that stage, and it's just for so many reasons. Of kind of where we're at, the 2 years of hard work that it took to get there. I mean, it took 2 years. And, for some people it takes less, some people it takes longer. But and it was a huge blessing to be able to play that. And then on top of that, they asked us back. So I guess that's a good thing.
That is awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So that's obviously something that was on your musical bucket list when you moved here.
Yeah.
So what else is on that bucket list?
That's the thing is I think you,
I mean, you got to have,
yeah,
you have to have something that's way up there. Everybody does.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the venues. I think that's one thing you do is you're always looking for the next thing. I mean, and it really is just kind of about setting the goals. Like, okay, I've done that, and it's like, what do I got to look to next? And Copeland was a big one for me. We got to play that, and that was because my wife and I wrote a song about that place. That's kind of where we fell in love, and so to go back and play that dance hall was huge. And and so now it's like, well, yeah, I want to go play Floors. I want to play Green Hall. I want to play some of those type of places. If there's a picture of me on the stage,
Lugenbach stuff.
Yeah, Lugenbach. Yeah. I mean, I kind of want to start checking the boxes. And it's really, it's just you want to be grateful for where you've gotten to, but you're always just hungry for a little bit more. And it's it's an in between thing, but I think it's just if you're gonna grow, you've got to kind of set your sights on things, and then you just got to do what you got to do to get there.
Don't take it from a semi-professional, semi-retired. Yeah, you always have to set a new bar.
Yeah,
always have to do it, because if you don't, you're not trying to work your way towards anything, and that's important,
right?
In this industry.
Yeah.
So,
and
that's awesome.
That is a cool story. Hearing that story is awesome in its own. Playing a small part in that meant like the world to me, and I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
But we'll give you a little rundown. I was at Sojo one night for a Billy Joe show. She's getting a whole lot of shout outs tonight, apparently. So she can't be too mad at us.
Billy Joe's worth it. She's great.
For sure. I love some Billy Joe. So I was at a Billy Joe show. Nate came out to see her. Ran into him outside. It's like, hey, I want to introduce you to some people. This is for you, Chad. Your heart out. I'm not taking credit for his talent because he's amazing, but I'm taking credit for plugging y'all together.
Yeah, you got.
That is like one of the coolest like little music memories that I have. He came in, I introduced him to Chad. They immediately hit it off.
Started talking baseball.
Yeah, we started ragging on his Astros because we're both Rangers fans. For sure. And then me and Nate are sitting there after Chad walks off. We're just kind of talking a little bit. I want to say it was He Got Game, wasn't it?
Yeah, they put I Got Game.
So we're sitting there and, I Got Game, my bad. I was
yeah.
Got Game in you. So I Got Game came on and Nate's like, Josh, this is my song. And I just introduced him to the owner. So I'm like immediately like, no, it's not, Nate. And he's like, I know my own song. And then we turn around and they're actually playing your song. How did that moment feel?
No, that's awesome. It's a cool feeling when you hear your stuff on the radio for the first time. You hear it in a dance hall, that sort of stuff. I mean, it never gets old. You see somebody in the audience singing the words to your songs, things like that. Just you'll never get tired of it.
And what's cool about that, the coolest thing I think, because I've been there to witness it since when you weren't there, is from that night on, they played it after Nate left. Nate left, so he didn't even get to hear and realize that they played 2 of his songs that night. At the end of the night, they went back and they played Last Call. Now, every time you're at Southern Junction, when it's Last Call, Nate Burnham plays.
Wow, dude, you're like better than Ezra status at this point.
Gives me
like
chills.
Closing time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because closing time's usually the go-to.
Oh yeah.
That's usually everybody's go-to. Now at Sojo, you will hear Last Call. That is their closing times.
Yeah, that's huge. When we recorded that song, I recorded in College Station with Jody Bartula and some other folks, and I remember telling him that I was like, "This is the type of song where it's you put this on at a dance hall at the end of the night." I wanted to have that 2-step feel when we were just going through the pre-production on the song and how we wanted it to sound, and he did such a great job with it, and so that's so cool to see that come to fruition, it to be the last song at a place like Sojo is awesome.
And I never want to be the guy that's like, I'm the reason they playing at Sojo, because I could have said that about anybody, and Lord knows most of my friends wouldn't make it. It was the talent and the profile behind it. He went backstage, immediately downloaded it, and loved it enough to play it for his whole crowd.
Right.
It's a great song.
But that says a lot about Nate, because no matter how much I talked him up, if he would have went back there and listened to it and it was trash, he wouldn't have been on there, and he damn sure wouldn't be playing again.
Yeah.
So shout out to Nate Burnham. Shout out to your whole band, because
Thank you, man.
Yeah, dude.
I have to address it a little bit, but the devil went down to Georgia. If you have not seen Nate Burnham, go see a show, because it's one of the most coolest music moments of any live show I've ever seen.
But if you're gonna request it, you got to pay what he has on the sign.
So yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the sign.
So Grace Partridge is my fiddle player. She's 18 now, but she's been playing with me since she was 15. And when she moved down to Texas when she was 16, her family was here. We were playing all over, and every night, if there's a fiddle on stage, people ask for a certain song. They ask for "Devil Went Down to Georgia," and every fiddle player hates playing it for the obvious reason. Like it's like we hate playing Tennessee Whiskey or Wagon Wheel. Like it gets asked for every single night.
Feathered Indians.
Yes.
Wagon Wheel? Never heard of it.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. So, I always told people that I didn't know it, so to spare her, because she was 16 at the time. And one time we were in the Stockyards playing, and somebody asked for it. And I just turned to Grace, and I was on the mic. I'm like, Grace, just tell them it's $100. Nobody's going to give you $100 for that song. And then somebody comes up, gives her $100, and somebody else walks up, gives her another $100. And we looked at each other. We were like, well, I guess we should learn it.
The light bulb went off, huh?
Yeah. So we played it, and we realized then, oh, well, people will pay for this song. And so we started putting out a sign for fiddle songs like when our tip jar hits $50, we'll play Amarillo by Morning. When it hits $100, we play Seminole Wind. When it's $150, we'll play Call in Baton Rouge. $200, we'll play Orange Blossom Special, but we mix in Folsom Prison Blues. And then a lot of nights we'll let Grace set the price on what Devil Went Down to Georgia is, and if she's in a bad mood, it goes up. But we've made a ton of money off of just really people wanting to reach the tip jar to get to that song, and I mean it's made us thousands of dollars in a week, for weeks in a row. And the cool thing is she'll play the devil or the fiddle, the Johnny part, but my drummer Andy Nelson, he plays fiddle as well. He's also from Idaho. He's an Idaho state champion fiddle player, so he'll come out from behind the drums. He'll play the devil, and then she'll play the Johnny part. So we have like dueling fiddle on stage, and at the live show, it works pretty good.
Yeah, it's an awesome experience.
All right, so your next show is going to be expensive as shit, because I got to see that happen.
Yeah, and fun fact is we played a party that they knew Grace wouldn't do it for free, so they passed a hat around. It came back with $1,100 in it. So that's one reason why she's always been trying to jack up the price. But last Sunday we played at Chop Shop
You're gonna put that kid through college, dude.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, I'm scared putting this out there because I think Charlie Daniels' estate's gonna come after me for all the money I'm making off of this song.
Right.
And but
You need to make a nonprofit LLC real quick. Yeah.
Is donating it. But we played the Stand Strong, This Is Not Your Last Song, the suicide awareness benefit for the Texas Music Network last Sunday, and they asked her to play it and to donate the money to the cause. And so they said, hey, let's do it for $500. So they passed the bucket around, but it came back with $902. So that's still the second most she's been paid for it. But people pay for that song, and it's filled up our gas tanks many a times on the road.
Yeah, and to hit home a little more locally, that's awesome that y'all were able to do that for that particular charity. We've obviously suffered our own loss, and really cool thing I want to talk about on this podcast. Cody Daniel was special to this scene directly, our immediate scene, and we've been lucky enough to expand a little bit out of that scene. We're getting a little bigger than what we were when we first started, when we were joking around in the whiskey locker. Cody Daniel was huge to the scene and meant a lot to a lot of the musicians. You wrote a song after his passing that really, really affected a lot of people around here. And I want to personally tell you how much it meant to me, because I think you put the words that everybody, this whole scene, without asking or stepping out of line, you spoke on behalf of the whole Hunt County scene when it comes to how we feel about Cody Daniel by writing the song that you sang. So will you just tell us a little bit about that song and a little bit about when he did pass, because there's some other things that you stepped up and did that, as not a local, meant so much to us local. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what music is for, is to fill those gaps in our life. And I shared the stage with him once briefly at Sideways, and we texted a few times, and I wasn't near as close to him as you guys are or were, but I had the experience of meeting him and having a chance to hang out with him somewhere else, and just seeing what a good person he was, and just how humble and kind and how talented he was. And but when he passed, I saw how hard it hit you guys. And it hits everybody in the community. Like, you feel it when something like that happens. Everybody feels it. And I think a lot of it too is I felt it because you guys were feeling it. Like, my friends were feeling it, more so than just my relationship with him, which, and compared to you guys was nothing. I had a short, brief time with him. And, so I really was looking for any way to help out. And the day he passed, I think I saw online that he'd been posting about the shows he had coming up, and I saw that he had a show at the Forge at Ben Wheeler. So I reached out and just offered to cover it for free. And so there was another guy, forgive me, because there was somebody else who'd reached out as well, but the two of us covered it. And it was a cool night because his friends showed up, and they shared a bunch of stories about Cody. And we laughed and cried through songs, and it was, for what it was a cool night, and to have his friends still come to where Cody was supposed to be was something special. But when I got there, his name was still on the marquee sign, and the L had fallen off his name. And so I walked over and I put it back up on the sign, and I took a few steps back, and I just said, "You're headlining in heaven tonight, my man, and we got it for you down here." And went inside and played, and the next day that just kind of sat with me. And so I sat down and I wrote that song, Headliner in Heaven. And when I finished it, or I was semi-finished with it, I sent it over to Zach, like most people do. Zach is such a phenomenal songwriter. He just always has.
You're gonna edit this part out.
No,
right here.
he never takes the credit for his talent, but when Zach hears things, he hears the things that can make it better. And I sent it to him, and he helped, tweak a few things, like the line with, I didn't know this about Cody, but he loved Brandon Jenkins, and I guess he had some of the same tattoos that Brandon Jenkins had or something. And
he had a signature tattooed on his.
He had it.
Yeah.
So, you know, the line about Brandon Jenkins songs is you know, he helped me with that. But, you know, the song just, it really was just what you said. I felt like it was kind of what we were all feeling at the time. And it was just something that would be healing for everybody. And I wrote it from that standpoint, that experience, but also kind of what us musicians would view heaven as like, you know, where we never break a string, you know, the band everybody knows all the words to your song, you know, all the things that we would want as musicians in heaven, and just to have him waiting for us there in a green room type thing. It was, it was one of those songs where it was a gift, not just for me, but for everybody that knew him. And I felt like that's really, you know, it was one of those special moments.
Well, I'll tell you what, in the words of another friend that I lost, you fucking nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
On behalf of the local scene and kind of stepping up and talking for them, just like you might not have felt like you had the voice at the time, you're an adopted member, even though like we had to take in the Astros fan. Like, we did it, and we sucked it up for you. Yeah. But it was cool because you repaid us, because you gave us a voice when a lot of us didn't have one. A lot of us were too upset to talk or speak on it, and you gave us that voice. And by releasing it again, it's obviously going to give us that voice again and keep his memory alive. And I just personally, on behalf of the whole scene, on the whole True Tall Tales and Whiskey's team, thank you, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. And
the world.
From the day that I showed up to Sideways, to Sweetwater Grill, for all these open mics that I started going to when I got here, you guys have done nothing but make me feel like one of your own. You know, and I sing the praises of Kenneth Waters, Michael Summers, and Zach Romo every chance I get, because those three guys especially were kind of the first ones that I met, and they introduced me to this dude and
sorry about that.
This dude, and you know but I feel like those three guys, they're the kind of the core, you know, dudes. At least a couple of years ago when I got here and they were playing everywhere, they had me come open for them, got me, you know, shows at different places, helped me out. I mean, I've felt nothing but love. When I lived in Austin, I've seen what cliquey music scenes can be, and how, you know, cutthroat some places can be. But out here in this scene, this area, I've had nothing but love from you guys, and I every chance I get, I praise you guys, just how much of a family it is out here, and just you guys have taken me in since day one. I've just will never forget it, no matter how far my career does or doesn't go. Like, that's one of those things that'll just always stick with me.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely. All right, so on a little bit of another note here, we're going to bring up your little TikTok scene you got kicking here.
We're going to go lighter on this one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've watched your videos, obviously.
Yeah.
And you come in here and talk about it a little bit.
Red dirt.
How has the whole TikTok scene that you're a part of, how has it helped your music any, or is
Yeah.
there's a whole different side of your persona?
Right. Both, right? TikTok really it's been great. There's a lot of people that have missed the boat on it. The algorithm's changed a bit, but a year and a half ago, doing Facebook Lives was super productive.
Absolutely.
And I've had more people show up when I go on the road, Colorado, wherever, Montana. I have more people show up because of TikTok than any other app, you know. And I run ads on other places and things, but there's a good music community on TikTok that it's been great for getting music out. Also, it is an outlet for, I think, some of the funny oddball stuff that there's just people have that side of them that nobody ever sees, that it's a platform to have that come out.
Absolutely.
And also, if it's another thing for people, you've got to connect with people on a different way than other than your music. Right now, it's a fire hose of music. It's so easy to get your music out there for everybody here, and it all is, you got to find a way to stand out.
Absolutely.
And so you have to connect with people on a different level, on a personal level or comedic level, whatever it is, to get them to go, hey, this guy's okay. Like, I'm gonna check out his stuff. And because if it's just like, well, here's a song I wrote, they're scroll, you know.
Yeah,
it's
you gotta
hard.
capture them in that first 15 seconds, or it's done.
Yeah.
Short attention span.
So it's definitely fun to put those stupid videos together and get some chuckles out of people. I think I try and do that a lot with, even my live shows and stuff. I try and be somewhat comedic. So
You're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you have the best TikTok out of any musician I know, and I know quite a bit of musicians, so it's not just comparing you to Corey Grady's forehead's Twitter.
Here we go again.
His forehead really has a Twitter. Check that out. Corey O'Grady's forehead at twitter.com.
Shout out Jared Renteria once again for the second episode.
Your
in a
TikTok
row.
is it at Nate Burnham Music?
at Nate Burnham Music.
And Nate Burnham
Yeah.
Music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got this persona called the Commissioner Against Cliche Country Music,
And
and
it's beautiful.
It's the
It's
awesome.
beautiful.
I started out just
My favorite is the old school country, by the way.
the traditional.
Yeah, the traditional stuff.
Yeah, it started out just banning terms that have been overused in country music and songwriting. And it's like, all right, we've written it this way. It's been said. We're no longer allowed to write any more songs going forward because it's unoriginal and it's no longer your song. If you write this into a song, you've heard this, right? And
But-
that's the trick with songwriting is I think we're trying to say the same old things, but in our own way.
But you're doing this in an awesome accent, like, okay, so no more tailgates, no more whiskey, no more bonfires, no
Long
more
tan
full
legs.
moons.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Appalachia one where he's coal miner.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that one I just got, so I don't shave when I go elk hunting. About the end of July, I stopped shaving my face and I go to the mountains with a full beard. And so that video, I did the whole Appalachia part, filmed it. Then I ended up shaving. A couple of days later, I went back and finished the Texas and the red dirt parts. So that's why my face looks different in all the clips. But yeah, that whole regional genres, Appalachia's getting big. Texas red dirt. We've had a lot of guys coming out of the scene here. And a lot of that stemmed from I went to Oklahoma on a radio tour, and I had no idea they were this sensitive about it, but they were very sensitive to the fact that red dirt is not Texas country, and they want to make sure that everybody knows that.
I lived in Oklahoma for a few years, and
Yeah,
they're dead set on that.
yeah,
Very defensive.
very. The radio people, I got to the station, and they were just like, "Well, you guys are taking all of our stuff. You're not red dirt. You're Texas country, but you're taking all of our artists and you're claiming them as your own Texas country. You're giving them all the award shows, and like they're Oklahoma. They're red dirt." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay."
It's not your fault Stoney LaRue moved to Texas. It's
Right.
not your fault that Cody Canada
Right.
moved to Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's actually like I said that in the red dirt one where I'm like, well, even though like they all live south of the Red River and like basically, yeah, we all know that they all lived south. There's still red dirt. It's like they still live in Texas, but it's red dirt and it's just different. But yeah, a lot of that just comes from interactions from the different genres. But yes, there is a difference. Oklahoma's different, and red dirt's your own thing, and we respect it.
Well, Texans love some Texas. Like
Yeah.
Kanye loves Kanye. But
We do love us that much.
I'll say this. When I have to talk about you, I'm like, yeah, he's from Idaho because I don't want to admit you're from Houston.
Oh man, Astros hates that bad.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of out of town shows and back into the music scene and everything, you got the Firebird Festival coming up.
Yeah, so excited for that. We put out a really cool music video for Firebird, and I think as far as videos go, I can be biased because it's mine, but I think it's one of the best videos in Texas country last year, and we got a lot of turned a lot of heads in the Pontiac community. And there's a Firebird Fest that happens in St. Louis every year, and we released it a couple weeks after last year's, but they caught on to the video, got shared, and then they're like, "Hey, we want to invite you guys out and headline." And sure enough, like they kept their word, and we're playing Sojo this Friday, and then the next week we're heading up to St. Louis, Illinois area and playing Firebird Fest. So we're pretty excited about that.
That's awesome, man.
Hell yeah.
That was awesome.
Any other shows you want to shout out? I know you were going through your planner earlier. I don't remember what you remembered seeing, but that will probably be out by the time this episode airs.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, we're all over, Dallas, Fort Worth area a lot, but, just check us out, NateBurnham.com. We're doing a run this summer through Colorado and Wyoming and Idaho. My goal really is to get out of Texas in July. That's just how I want to live my life. It's not be here when it's 110 degrees. And if I can go to the mountains, then that's what I want to do. So go play shows out west.
Well, I apologize.
Do some fly
'cause
fishing.
I do have you booked June 3rd in
That's
Wills
true.
Point, Texas at the venue. So we'll let him escape Texas briefly after that.
Yeah, I'm actually 15th wedding anniversary. I'm going to Honduras the next week.
That's awesome.
There you go.
I'm stoked for that.
Awesome. So while we have both of y'all here, we're going to kind of get some of the bad blood out there. Like, why hasn't Nate Burnham been on Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants podcast at this point?
I think the main reason would be that typically I record on Fridays, and if you're a musician,
He's booked.
you're booked, and yeah, that would be.
So tell us a little bit more about your podcast, Mr. Lindley, before we get out of here.
This is it's a podcast I started with my buddy Spar. I've known Spar for over 20 years now. We both were really close with another friend of mine. He was my first roommate. He was one of my first bandmates, and he passed away last year, about a year ago. And we decided, to keep his memory alive, we would start just hanging out and just talk about the stupid crap that we used to talk about when I lived with Grant, and Spar basically lived there with us because he would just come over every day after work and eat all our food and bring over some cheap beer, and it's like X-Files type stuff and serial killers, and so that's pretty much what we do. We sit around and talk about conspiracy theories and aliens and serial killers.
Dude, it's awesome. I've listened to 3 of them.
Well, it's not for the faint of heart.
It's cool though, man.
There's a lot of foul language. A lot of foul language.
I'm ready to go. So a guest host is.
Hey man, you're more than welcome. Like I said, if
I could ghost host and just not be there. That works.
you could do it from home, man. I mean, to say we do everything remote, so that's not an issue.
Amazing podcast, especially if you're into that kind of conspiracy stuff. They go over a lot of cool things that you've always. They say the things that you thought that you don't want to say to everybody, but the things.
Yeah, but we're dumb and
they
we say it anyway. Yeah,
shit.
the stuff that's not PC. Yeah, we're dumb. We say that anyway. But
so
yeah.
You've been lucky enough to be the closest out of Nate in this. Like,
Yeah.
how would you summarize Nate Burnham to the crowd that doesn't know Nate Burnham?
I think Nate has his finger on the pulse of what's going on right now in Texas music and country music in general, and I think you'd be a fool not to check him out. I mean, he's one of the best around that I know. I wouldn't be helping him try to write songs if I didn't believe in him. You know what I mean? So
Before I met Zach, I'd never done a co-write ever, and I've written everything on my own. But part of that, I think, too, is when you have ideas for songs and stuff. Like, if you got to trust people with your music, right? You don't want to like get into a co-write and then have them like screw it up. But met Zach, hung out with him, listened to him play a bunch, and just you recognize like, oh man, this guy gets it. Like he's an incredible writer, great singer, and
he's full of shit, by the way.
Stop interrupting me when I'm complimenting you. And so, and so you recognize like this, it's like a kindred spirit thing. It's like, oh, this guy gets it. And so we got together one time and went over to his house. No plan. I had no idea what I was doing. He's like, well, what do you want to write about? I'm like, I don't know. What do you want to write about? And it's like, well, you got anything? I got it. So I went through my phone and had this song that, I just was kind of stuck on. It had like a couple verses and a chorus. And so we sat down and wrote it. And he helped me just clean it all up, put a bridge in it. And it was Guitar in My Hand, which is honestly, in my opinion, probably one of the best songs that I've written. And I owe it to him to bring the whole thing to life. And so we're excited. We're going to be releasing that this summer,
but you can see it on True
check it
Tales and Whiskey First
After Dark.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're ready for that.
Yeah. I'm excited for you, man. Yeah, it's a great song.
Excited for us.
Zach is an asshole, but he is like the best friend
but I'm
you
not
could possibly have.
I'm not a fucking asshole.
He's our ass.
Hell yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. He's ours.
All right. Nate, Zach, it's been a pleasure having y'all out tonight.
Thanks for having us, man.
Looking forward to everything you got coming up here soon. And thank y'all for tuning in to True Tall Tales and Whiskey.
Thank you, boys.
Thank y'all. Check out Nate Burnham this Friday.
NateBurnham.com.
This won't be out by the time he has that show. Josh is stupid.